Do that. All right, so thank you guys for spending your evening with us tonight. This is our winter litter leaders training. We do 4 of these trainings a year to try to stagger them out through the seasons. Um, do one like roughly every season, usually in anticipation of our bigger litter cleanup campaigns that we do throughout the year. And of course, it's not going forward. Some of you may already have some experience with Keep Durham Beautiful before, recognize quite a few of the names, but we're an environmental nonprofit here in Durham. We were founded in 2004, and we've generally had 3 main focus areas during that time, primarily litter prevention and community greening, with a little side of waste reduction, usually around recycling education and teaching people about ways that they can reduce waste in their life. We work to foster an environmentally resilient, clean, and connected Durham by forming partnerships with various organizations, communities, businesses, individuals to leverage resources so that we can help make changes that residents want to see. So we like to think of ourselves as primarily a group that empowers residents to be the change that they want to be and do things on their own with our help if they want it. Actually, before I get started, I usually like to go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves, say approximately where in Durham you live. You don't have to name your street or anything, just like what area of Durham you live in, and what brought you here tonight, what interests you in this. And I'll just go ahead and start with Courtney, and then you guys can popcorn around.
That sounds great. Good evening, all. My name is Courtney McGuire, and I have been volunteering as a litter leader for a few months now, certainly. I live in South Durham, kind of near Hillside High, and part of what brought me to Keep Durham Beautiful is its ability to bring together different volunteers to do projects in our community. Josiah is the next name, so I'll pop it over to Josiah.
All right, awesome. Hey everyone, my name's Josiah. I have done a few cleanups with Keep Durham Beautiful, and Courtney mentioned to me a few weeks ago, hey, maybe you'd be interested in being a litter leader. So Courtney is the reason I'm here in the meeting tonight. But generally speaking, I consider myself to be an environmentalist, and Keep Durham Beautiful. A lot of what the mission is really aligns with what I believe in personally. So not to sound so cliche, but I find the work to be very rewarding when I can go out and I can see, hey, we cleaned that part the other day. Like it looks really good now. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Thanks, Josiah. Pablo, why don't you go next?
Yeah, thanks, Pablo. And I live near Southwest Durham. It's near the intersection of Hope Valley and Woodcroft Parkway. I enjoy going out on Third Fork Creek. Yeah, and in fact, enjoying a cleanup there in the fall. And I got a couple of daughters, and so type of environmental education and community work is important, and also interested about perhaps, yeah, just organizing or sort of leading my own and then seeing what we could do at their school, Southwest Elementary. I'll pass it over to Samantha.
Awesome. I think there was a Chelsea in the room. Or maybe not. Or whoever else wants to go next.
Chelsea just posted in the chat. Sorry, I think you
Okay.
can't see it, Dawn, but she has a very
Yeah.
loud dryer in the background. But she's from Southwest Durham, and she's been to a few invasive removals with a couple of different organizations. And she's a new member to Durham Wildlife Stewards. That's awesome.
Oh, awesome. Welcome. Who hasn't gone yet?
I'm happy to go. I'm Samantha. I live in the Lakewood area of Durham. and I'm interested in getting involved in being a litter leader with Keep Durham Beautiful. I've volunteered a few different times over the years and have done work kind of in environmental spaces and around waste, and so I was excited about this opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks for coming. Thought I saw Anne Elizabeth in here, who is a former associate of ours.
Hi, I hope that y'all can hear me. I'm driving, so I'm Anne Elizabeth. It's great to see you all. Hi, Samantha. Fun to see you in this call. Samantha's one of my dear friends. I do sustainability for the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and I'm working on a 2026 statewide cleanup initiative right now. And so as I've been like developing materials and promoting that, I just wanted to get a refresh on Bill's training. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. Is there anybody else? Feel free to go ahead.
I think everyone introduced themselves.
Okay, perfect. And I'm going to try to get us done by 6:30. All of this information that we're about to go through is in the resources. So, don't stress out if I go over to something too fast. You can always ask questions or go back through the resources and see if any questions can be answered there. So plainly put, litter leaders are volunteers committed to litter prevention in Durham. It's a program that we started during the pandemic when folks were not able to get together to do events. It primarily started as like a go out and pick up trash on your own in your neighborhood as a way to get involved. And then we realized that we could leverage volunteers that knew our processes and things like that to help us increase our capacity to lead events. So Keep Durham Beautiful is a very small organization. There are currently 3 full-time staff, myself, our executive director, and Mason Wong, who primarily focuses on urban forestry community engagement. So she doesn't have much to do with litter engagement. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but generally we work with between 4,000 to 6,000 volunteers a year and pick up anywhere from 40 to 80,000 pounds of trash in a given year through several different events. And some of those are small, some are big. So litter leaders sort of help us fill the gap, especially during these larger service times that are listed. So upcoming, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. We have several cleanups happening. Creek Week is the 3rd week of March. They're primarily water-based cleanups, but they don't have to be. Earth Month, obviously, everyone wants to get out and do their part. We also do 9/11 Day of Service events. And then Big Sweep is our other big campaign. It's basically Creek Week, except it's the entire month of October. And for all of those, we sort of, we have some events that we host as staff, but we also ask litter leaders to host events, usually smaller, something that's more personal to them, like in their neighborhood or in a spot, like a troublesome spot that they've noticed. But we also have groups that reach out to us wanting to do a cleanup, and either staff aren't available or, for whatever reason, we ask a litter leader to take that on. So you guys pretty much echoed what we said here. Why be a litter leader? You care about the environment, you care about people, you want to maybe make new friends. It's a great opportunity to get service hours for school. I think just this past year, we had our first high school graduates that were litter leaders that had started with us when they were starting high school. So that's really cool to have seen someone gone through the program and essentially graduated. Volunteer leadership looks great on a resume, and of course volunteering is good for you. It makes us feel good. It's good for our mental health and our physical health. So again, the volunteer opportunities that are available to litter leaders, of course, leading volunteer groups, either in public or private events. You can lead your own events on your own schedule. This is something that Courtney has done a really great job with. I think Courtney took this training for the first time last January and has led several events since then. Usually it's just a matter of, hey, I want to lead this event in this spot on this date. Can you post it so I can get more volunteers? It's, pretty simple. And then we give you the supplies and you do the cleanup. We also have some opportunities to give anti-litter presentations or recycling presentations to local groups. We have lots of tabling opportunities, especially during Earth Month. We get invited to lots of events where folks want to talk to us about what we do. Another thing that we do want more people to help out with is contributing to our litter hotspot map and the hotspot information sheets. So if you look through the resources, the hotspot map is basically like a live map that we keep of places that we know get littered often, or maybe there's been a big dump site. And the information sheets are basically sheets that you guys can use, or people that are leading events outside of that, to get better knowledge of the location, like what kind of trash to expect, where the trash is, where they can park, whether there's bathrooms, where the best place to leave the trash is, and etc. And then eventually would love to see really passionate litter leaders leading future training so that maybe we can host them more than 4 times a year. So the procedure's pretty simple. I send out a monthly email with opportunities. As I said, you can also reach out to me if you want to lead something. I will usually just have it be pretty informal, where you email me saying, hey, I'd like to do that event. And then I'll communicate with you to, give details, arrange for supply pickup, connect you with the group leader if it is a particular group, like a scout group or something that's wanting to do the cleanup, and then sort of just empower you to take that on. And the requirements of the program are pretty much complete this training. We do like it if you come back for refreshers, just because we do try to keep the information updated as we learn things, because things happen and you have to change procedure, and change is inevitable. We ask for litter leaders to volunteer for at least 2 to 3 events per year. And then just the basic, making sure that you're bringing back supplies, the results forms and waivers and stuff, so that we can track those events. So we've broken down leading a litter cleanup into 5 different sections. First, you have to prepare for the event. So you can choose an event that we offered. For an example, I might have a scout troop that wants to lead a cleanup. They may have an idea of where they want to go. They may not. In some cases, you might have to consider where is a location that would be good for a group of 50 10-year-olds. You don't want to take 50 10-year-olds down 751. That might not go so well, and the parents might be upset with you. So picking a project based on the group and how many people you have and the age and the ability is part of the preparation. You'll figure all that out as you coordinate with the group contact. Or sometimes we do that part. Sometimes we have the event all laid out. We just need somebody to be there the day of, to greet the group, lead the cleanup, and let us know what the results are and all of that. So it kind of varies depending on your comfort level and what's available. We do ask that you try to become familiar with your project site, go do a site visit, check to see if there is a litter hotspot info sheet for that location. A lot of the ones that we have are for parks, especially the parks where we tend to do a lot of litter cleanups, like Longmeadow Park, which is pictured here. Also checking the watershed map, which we'll talk about a little later, to see what watershed it's in so that you can include that as an educational component, and then reaching out to any particular neighborhood partners or stewards. Sometimes we like to let the local businesses know, or the neighbors, or if it's a location that doesn't have a bathroom, maybe checking in with the gas station around the corner and saying, hey, we're going to have volunteers here on Sunday. Is it okay if they come use the bathroom if they need to? That sort of thing. And then communicating the following things with your volunteers prior to the event so that they're confident. Because I don't know about you guys, but nothing annoys me more than when I sign up to do an event and I don't know where to park. I don't know where I'm supposed to meet people. I don't know how I should be dressed, sort of thing. So we like people to have all the information that they need in order to feel confident and ready and actually come and show up to the event. So all of those things. And as I mentioned, sometimes Keep Durham Beautiful staff will be the ones sending the email. Sometimes it will be the litter leader. It just depends on the situation. We'll prepare the supplies for you, and you can pick them up from our office, which is at 2011 Fay Street. We are inside the City of Durham General Services Department. Sort of glossed over that part at the beginning, but we are a 501c3 nonprofit, but we're also sort of installed within a City of Durham department. We're in the same department as cultural and public art, landscaping, urban forestry, all of those folks. So general services is sort of a department for all of us that don't really belong in any of the other bigger departments like water management or public works. If you cannot make it to our office during office hours, we have an outdoor drop box, and the litter kits include everything you see here and in the list. Grabber's gloves, bags, first aid kit, although sometimes we don't have, I think we only have 6 or 7 of those. So if there's a lot going on, we might not always send out a first aid kit. So if you have one in your car or that you can bring, that's also very helpful. And then we also include all of the forms that you'll need. Example A. So this is, people will sign in, put their signature. They don't have to put their email if they don't want to. This is something I'll usually let people know at the beginning, like, hey, if you want to be on our newsletter list and hear about future events, you can give us your email, but that's not required. And we'll include a list of the safety rules and guidelines in case anyone wants to look those over. And then we'll include a results card so that you can mark how many bags you collected, how many pounds they were, like a list of unbaggable items, because we request that you don't put large, heavy, or sharp items in the bags, and any other things that you might have noticed at that location. So try to arrive 10 to 15 minutes before the start time to get set up. I don't like it when I get there and there's already volunteers there waiting for me, so I like to show up pretty early, have folks sign in on the waiver as they arrive, and then after most of them have arrived, give the introduction and instructions, which we'll talk about on the next slide, pass out your supplies. This next one can be hard to remember taking a group photo before you begin work. Sometimes volunteers will trickle in and out, and by the end, even if you started with 20 people, you might just have 5 people. So I like to take a picture before we get started and then afterwards as well. Make sure that you're giving people a time to meet back up with you. If it's ending at 3, maybe tell them, hey, keep an eye on your watch. Let's wrap up around 2:45 and start to, circle back. And as much fun as it is to pick up trash, you're there to lead the event. So you need to make sure you're circulating throughout the event to make sure that everyone's being safe and staying busy, and to answer questions. And then join in the cleanup yourself if you're able. Just try to make sure that you stay visible. You want to make sure that in the case of an emergency, or if someone has questions or a problem, you want to be able to be found easily. And we don't have to go through this now. We have a sample script that you can look over if you would like to now. The introduction can be as simple or as complex as you feel comfortable. If all you feel comfortable saying is, "Hi, my name is Josiah. I'm a volunteer with Keep Durham Beautiful, and I'm going to lead you through this event today." We get it. Not everyone is made for the limelight. But we have the sample script prepared for you that you're welcome to print out and bring to events with you if that would make you more comfortable. And we do like to give information about the location itself. If we have it, you'll see some of the hotspot or some of the litter info sheets have information about the history, the watershed, any kind of like ecological importance of that particular location. We call it placemaking, and it sort of gets people to feel more in tune with the place that they are, make it more meaningful. And then after you introduce yourself and give information about the site, you'll explain the logistics. So you want people to know specifically where to put their full bags of trash. Otherwise, you'll just be finding them all over the place. Explain to them that we use black bags for things headed for the landfill and white or clear bags for recycling. We only recycle clean bottles and cans. Clean is one of those words that, you will get questions about it. Generally, if it's super crusted with dirt, shredded up, really gross, that can be trashed. Keep in mind that these things, if they're going to a recycling center, that they're not going to accept things that are super dirty or, gross or not in good condition still. If it's just crushed, that's fine. And then also a part of why we ask you to do a site visit ahead of time is so that you can note any particular hazards around the site. Like, oh, there's a lot of red ant hills here, or the creek slopes are really steep. So we have to pick a particular location for volunteers to go into the creek. So again, being aware of your surroundings, making sure people know, look both ways before you cross the street, walk on the opposite side of the flow of traffic, things like that. Pointing out fire ant hills. If you're not from the area, you may not know what those look like. A quick Google search will show you. It only takes 1 foot in a fire ant hill to teach you how to locate those and stay away from them. We also recommend being able to identify poison ivy, which this time of year is not as big of a problem, but once you get to summer and fall, you'll want to know what that looks like. We tell people to not put sharp or heavy objects in a trash bag. I have heard from volunteers before that, they did put something sharp, it ripped through the bag and cut the back of their leg open. So that's why we tell people not to do that. Anything that's like really heavy or big, you can leave in a separate pile for bulky items. If there's something that people are uncomfortable picking up, something particularly gross, or, if it's like a weapon or something like that, tell them to come and find you. And if you're comfortable, you can handle it. If not, don't worry about it. Obviously, in the case of something like a weapon, you would call the police to let them know about that. Needles are not often, there's only certain locations. Josiah, I know you have a particular location where this is a problem.
Yes, very bad.
Yeah, so needles should be put into sharps containers, and I can give you some if you want to continue cleanups at that particular location. But in the case that you don't have a sharps container, grab a plastic bottle, usually like a thicker, like you don't want to use those super crinkly water bottles that are that really, really thin plastic. Try to find like a soda bottle or a Gatorade bottle, something that's a thicker plastic that has a cap, and then carefully put the needles into that bottle, cap it, and then throw it away. Make sure you do not recycle a bottle that has needles in it. Staying hydrated will be really important in the summer. Hopefully people will show up wearing appropriate clothing. but you will have, college kids that show up wearing Crocs and really short shorts for a foray through a poison ivy filled forest. It happens. Sometimes you might have to tell people, hey, in your best interest, you might want to either go home and change, or maybe we can find something for you to do in the parking area where there's not as much plant debris. We will usually, weather is kind of up to the participants and you. Working in a drizzle, like a light drizzle, is fine as long as everyone's okay with it. But as soon as there's lightning or really heavy wind or really heavy rain, you want to stop working. And then making sure people bring a hat and sunscreen, that they are looking out for their personal belongings. And then we try to have people work in pairs when possible, just so that, buddy system, everyone's keeping an eye on each other. Any questions thus far? I know I've been moving through this pretty quickly.
I've got one question that kind of popped up. I was wondering what's the best time to set a cleanup? Like, when do you see the most volunteers come out? Like that 10 to 12, that 1 to 3? Like, has that been tracked?
Yeah, so that kind of changes seasonally. We try to do it in the winter during the warmer part of the day, and in the summer during the cooler part of the day. So I think most people prefer to get things, at least, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, I like to get things done and out of the way pretty early in the morning.
Right.
In the summer, we try to start as early as we can, usually no later than 9, just because the heat really gets up there in the summer.
Right.
This time of year, you have to consider daylight and also temperature. So the reason why a lot of our events right now are 10 to 12, because that's, taking advantage of the earlier part of the day, but also not the coldest part of the day.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
then also keeping in mind, like I said, daylight. So in the fall, in October, you don't want to schedule an event from like 4 to 6, because you'll be working in the dark for the last half hour.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Hey, Dawn, who coordinates the pickup of full bags or where?
I can't really hear you very well, Pablo.
Yeah, sorry, who coordinates the pickup of the full bags, or where those should be left?
Yeah, we'll get into that. That is neighborhood improvement services that does the pickup afterwards. But I have a whole slide on that, so we'll get there. But thank you. This is a fairly new addition. We have an incident protocol for volunteers. So this is also its own page in the resources folder. So we don't have to go through the whole thing, but just know that, we have some numbers in here and instructions laid out. We have an incident reporting form so that, if something happens, you can let us know, and then we will do our best to work those, work that new knowledge into future trainings and events. But especially wanted to point out that we do have the HEART team in Durham. So if there's any situation involving like behavioral or a mental health crisis, you can request them for a hopefully more empathetic response, which is literally in the name. So we'll just talk briefly about some educational talking points. Again, this is probably something that you'll want to integrate as you are doing more events, or if you have a particular interest in the environment or sustainability or teaching. So who, without reading the definition, could explain to me what a watershed is, or thinks that they know? Just blurt it right out.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm so sorry if I sound silly. And this is literally just coming from my knowledge of being at cleanups, but I believe a watershed is when eventually all the water at the location ends up at an ocean or some larger body of water. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, pretty much. And the watershed can be, as small as your local creek or as big as, yeah, eventually the ocean. So when it rains, all water flows somewhere, and the area where that water flows when it rains is known as its watershed. We have several different watersheds in Durham. The majority of our cleanups tend to happen in the Ellery Creek or the Third Fork Creek, or like New Hope Creek, Sandy Creek watersheds. Central Durham definitely gets a lot of attention. So we have copies of the map that's on the screen here that you can take with you to events, to show people. This is especially great if there's, kids. We like to offer it to people to say, hey, can you find your watershed? Like where is your home on this map? There's also a searchable version on the City of Durham website where you can put the address of your location to see which watershed you are in. And the primary point in talking about watersheds is because we all need water, right? And water is dramatically impacted by litter, especially things like microplastics. So being able to, put through to people that water on our streets will end up in our drinking water eventually if we don't pick it up is usually a pretty impactful way of explaining why we're doing what we're doing. Especially with younger groups, like this is a fun one to include, like what is litter? Waste in the wrong place. People have varying reasons for, why litter is quote unquote bad. Especially little kids. It's always my favorite reason, are very quick to point out it hurts animals. It does impact animal health as well as human health. It can leach toxins. We do a lot of talking about microplastics these days because plastic in the natural environment breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces that can then be ingested by animals and humans. We don't yet know the full, impacts of microplastics on human health. So if any of you are in the scientific space and want to, it's a great research area for folks in that arena. So you can talk about all of these reasons, or if some of the reasons are particular to, particularly poignant to the group or the location, just some ideas. So now we've gotten to the sorting bit. Remember, we said we use black bags for trash and white bags for recycling. We have the paper crossed out on this page because most paper in an outdoor setting is going to be too wet, gross, broken down to be recycled. And nowadays, I pretty much just tell people at the outset of an event, we're only looking for bottles and cans. Because people have a little bit of trouble, due to how confusing our recycling system is. People think a lot of things are recyclable that are not recyclable. But for the purposes of Keep Durham Beautiful events, we're just looking for bottles and cans, and that can be glass, plastic, or aluminum. And I think this is my little quiz. So you guys can just shout it out. Is this recycling or trash?
Recycle.
Recycling.
Recycling.
Exactly.
Mhm.
What about a
Trash.
plastic bag?
Trash.
Trash, exactly.
But the
One
grocery
trash.
stores will take them, but trash.
Yes. And I hope we all know not to put these in our recycling bin because they will contaminate recycling at the facility. All right. What about a chip bag?
Trash.
Trash, exactly.
Recycle.
Yes, recycle. For
Cautiously.
broken bottles, I will usually put them in the trash if they're like this, because there's usually more fluffy stuff in a trash bag to sort of keep the bottle from ripping through. And then also for like really small pieces of glass is an inert material, so it's not really contributing any pollution to the environment. It it offers more of like a safety risk. So something like this, I wouldn't probably put it in the recycling bag because there would just be lots of other harder, like firmer things pushing against it that might cause it to cut through. But again, it sort of, depends. If that corner wasn't there, I might feel okay putting that in a recycling bag.
Anybody know what we're supposed to do with the metal caps?
What was that?
What are we supposed to do with metal caps? Do you know?
So unless you're collecting them at home, like to make a big collection to bring somewhere, things that are that small will not make it through the recycling system. So the recycling facilities are basically just a series of ramps, and things move along the ramps, and really small things will fall through like the spaces in those ramps.
Yeah, and I think my question is, what happens in if a bottle is recycled, it probably will break at some point. But it does have, like it's shown on the screen, a metal cap. Does it go through the
Yeah,
recycling, or does it get discarded?
most facilities will say to leave the cap on because that is the only way that you can somewhat guarantee that it will make it through the recycling system. Because if it's just on its own, it's going to fall through the cracks. Hopefully that answers that question. This one should be easy.
Can I say a quick
Recycle.
question about the broken glass?
Yeah.
I've been telling people to leave broken glass because of safety concerns with them like ripping through the bag and people getting hurt with them. Should I start encouraging people to pick them up, or like or not telling them to not pick them up?
Again, I think it kind of depends. Like if it's in an area where there's lots of foot traffic and you maybe want to leave it safer than where you started, I would, if it's close to a school, I would pick it up. I also I usually prefer to handle it myself if I can.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on what your preference is. Like if you don't want your volunteers handling broken glass, I think it's fine to leave it.
Okay.
But if they're comfortable and confident with, finding a good spot for it in their bag, that's also fine.
Okay. Thanks so much.
And I have some gloves that the puncture that, it's been a while since I've done a really long while. I have a great story, but I won't tell it. But I have some gloves that I can pick stuff up. So I volunteered to grab that, the times that we would find some.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm. They also, the snakes can't bite through it either.
Yeah,
What
that's
is
true.
that? Oh, not recycle. That's 7 years in the landfill plus.
Yeah, so I'm sure we all know cigarette butts, not recycling. We did do a cleanup recently at Duke Hospital where we picked up almost 9,000 cigarette butts in the space of an hour and a half in an area, maybe the length of like a city block,
That's insane.
if not smaller. But yeah, Josiah, you missed out that day.
I was sick that day. I wanted to be there.
So keeping in mind what we've already talked about, what do you guys think about something like this? Could that
Not
be trash?
recyclable. Looks like a cigarette container.
Yeah, I think it's it's hard to tell, but I think it's like some kind of cardboard case.
Yeah, probably has maybe has a plastic, some kind of coating on it.
Yeah, and when in doubt, throw it out
Throw it
is
out.
always
Yeah.
always what we say. Yeah. So if it was cardboard and it was like really wet and gross, we would throw that away. And what about this particularly grody looking bottle here?
Throw it out. We don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
Looks like somebody chewing tobacco, probably use it to spit. And
Yeah. And this is another instance where I will sort of tell people it's up to them. Like I will personally open most bottles and pour out the contents. You get to know certain colors and how they might smell. So usually if there is liquid in the bottle, it needs to be thrown in the trash if they're not willing to open it and pour it out. Because we don't want to send full bottles, with liquid in them to the recycling center either. So that's usually something I'll point out ahead of time, or or in the moment. Like, hey, if you find a bottle, it clearly just has grape soda or whatever in it and you're comfortable opening it and pouring out, that's fine. Then you can recycle the bottle, but if not, throw it in the trash.
Trash.
And trash, yes. So many people think that these cups are recyclable, but they are not. What about a plastic fork?
Trash.
Yes, trash. All right. You all pass. Good job. All right. So now we're getting to the part that Pablo asked about. So finishing up.
Was the plasticware not recyclable at all in Durham?
No. So they're pretty specific about the shape of plastics. So generally bottles, tubs, jugs, and jars are going to be the only things. And there's varying different reasons that it would take way too long to get into. But generally, if it's not a bottle, a tub, a jug, or a jar, they probably don't want it in the recycling. I'm sorry, my dog detects somebody outside making a delivery, I think. River, stop. All right, so when you're done, you start bringing everyone back, like I said, to the starting location about 10 to 15 minutes before you're scheduled to end. Separate your used gloves and vests by having everyone put them into a blue mesh bag that we'll include in your supplies, and encourage volunteers to help you collect the items. So putting the grabbers back in the orange bag, closing up the orange bag, like tightening the satchel after all the grabbers are back in. Making sure everything's all together to make your job a little easier. If there's anyone who showed up late that you know didn't sign in, make sure you pass the waiver to them. And then finally, we're assessing the trash that we've collected. So we want to have neat piles of all of the different kinds of collected things. Like in the picture here, you want a separate pile of bulky, unbagged things, a separate pile of trash, and a separate pile of recycling. And I do like to consolidate bags as much as I can, because there's nothing worse than having like 5 trash bags that each have like 5 items in them. And we can reuse those bags after you've dumped the contents into the more full bag. Make sure that all the bags are tied, because the folks that are going to come and pick it up, it makes their job easier. And then making sure that you count the bags, make a rough list of the bulky items that you collected. You can weigh those too if you want. Some things, may not have a spot on them where you can connect the hanging scale. And that's fine. You can do an estimate and then record all the data on the litter results card. And it's easier if you get a volunteer to help you weigh the bags. I think when we do the in-person, I usually do a little bit more of a walkthrough of how to do the weighing. But we have these hanging scales that Ed is holding in the picture here, and you can use those to weigh the closed bags. Have somebody reading the scale and then someone else writing them down. Takes a lot longer to do with one person. And then take a final picture of the group with all of your trash. I think it is, it's really impactful to see like all of that trash and all of the people that helped make it happen. So this is probably the part that I think makes our program the most valuable. So we have a partnership with the city and the county of Durham, where trash from our cleanups gets picked up by the various staff. So neighborhood improvement services, they do have a new name now with the restructuring. I can't remember what it is, but their impact team staff are the ones that come by and pick up the trash after an event. If it's outside city limits, county solid waste will come and pick it up. But so because it's an outside department essentially helping us out, we like to make their job as easy and as safe as possible, which is why we really take so much time to try to explain like the correct way to pile trash. It sounds kind of silly, but we want to make their job as easy as possible. So you want to pick a location to pile the trash that would be easy for a truck to pull up alongside it, and put the trash either in the back of the pickup or a large bucket truck to pick up, which I have a video in the next slide. Hopefully it'll work. Make sure that they're not underneath any super low power lines or tree limbs. You'll understand in a second. And then not directly next to any other obstacles, fence post signs, things like that. And then after your event, we appreciate like a text and a picture to let us know like what your trash looks like, more like where it is. So you could say like it's at the corner of Cheek and East Gear. That's fine, just so that we can give the NIS staff a general location to go and look for the trash. And for some larger cleanups, you might end up needing to have multiple drop points. And we just ask that you limit those as much as possible. Like try for no more than 3 specific drop points or less. Let me see if this will work. So sharp rusty metal, they'll send out this bucket truck with the grapple. And so this is why we ask you not to put piles close to any sort of obstacle. So he can't operate this machine if you pile the trash next to a sign or a trash can. They would have to then physically move all of the items away from that obstacle so that they wouldn't damage it with the grapple. But yeah, does that answer your question, Pablo? Oh, all right.
I have a question, Don.
Yeah.
Do they normally come and pick up the items the same day that we do the cleanup?
It depends. If it is on a weekend, sometimes they are able to. Most often for weekend events, they come by on a Monday.
Okay.
Courtney, I don't know if you have experience like since you have been having the regular like Sunday events. I don't know how close you live to the location you're usually doing your pickups, but hopefully they're most often picking them up like the Monday after an event, or at least a couple days.
I live close enough where it's fun to drive by and see the trash and then see it gone.
Mhm.
So you get the
Yeah.
hit of both.
But yeah, we have a really great relationship with this team, which is why I really try to drive home please make sure that we're keeping them safe, that we're making their job easy, because of those, the 50,000 pounds or whatever that our volunteers have picked up, these guys are the ones that are taking it to the dump. So, and I live in Raleigh, and we have similar volunteer organizations to Keep Durham Beautiful, but they do not provide the trash pickup option. Like you have to take care of getting the trash to the dump yourself. So it's a really valuable part of the program that can't be understated. And of course, now it's not letting me skip ahead.
How much space is it typically required is it always it's not always this vehicle we see on the screen. Is there always a vehicle with a trailer? I'm thinking about situations whereby, how much space one needs to accommodate for this
Gosh.
vehicle.
It kind of depends. If it's only a small amount, they're probably just going to bring the pickup truck to pick up the trash. For these larger amounts, it's hard for me to say, I don't know that I could give you like a 10 foot by 10 foot kind of thing.
It's a small amount. It's a pickup truck.
Yeah. Okay. So, real quick, these are some examples from recent cleanups of, like these volunteers did a great job picking up trash. They got a lot of trash, but there was just a little issue with the way that they chose to pile their trash afterwards. So this far picture on the left, who can tell me what the issue is with where this trash was piled. There's a couple of issues, actually.
On the sidewalk.
It's on the sidewalk, so we do not want to block any roadways or pedestrian paths with our trash. The last thing that we want is to become a nuisance or a burden to the community around us. They also put it directly next to this fence, so the people picking the trash up would have to then individually throw all of those bags into a truck. They couldn't use the grapple. What about the one in the top right? This guy
Okay.
here.
Too close to the trash can.
Too close to the trash can.
Yeah,
And I
And okay, what
don't
about the
really
one?
know if it's accessible for whomever's picking it up. It could
Yeah,
be-
exactly. This is
Yeah.
not particularly close to a roadside, so the person picking it up would have to do some walking to get it. And what about this last picture down at the bottom?
It doesn't look accessible
yeah, same thing here.
behind it's behind like a
Yeah,
fence.
behind the fence, hard to access. It's not
Doesn't look
in
well
the-
organized, the
Yeah.
back.
Exactly, not well organized. And this group is forgiven because they didn't have a litter leader or staff. It was just a group that came out and did an event, didn't have like a leadership person there to help them understand why we needed to do things that way. Well, great job. As I said, like that, the what to do with the trash afterwards is sort of, it can be the trickiest part, but it's also really important. Just so that we're thinking of like the safety and the time management of the staff that are picking up those bags for us. Try to take pictures. That's the part that really tells our story. We use those in our volunteer shout outs in our newsletter, on our social media, promoting our programs to the public, applying for grants, all things like that. And you're welcome to share things to your own accounts, but by no means do you have to. I know lots of people don't even really do social media anymore. But if you do, just please tag us. And you're welcome to use the hashtags Keep Durham Beautiful or Do Beautiful Things. We're an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, and the Do Beautiful Things is their particular hashtag. And recording, we sort of went over this. In most cases, you will have a physical recording sheet to track the number of bags you picked up, the weights, and all of that. But if you don't, we do have an online reporting form that you can use. And then make sure that if you do have a physical form, that you're returning that along with the rest of the supplies. And then another great thing about the recording sheet is there's a spot to include anything you think we should know about the location where you were cleaning up. And this is, I don't know why I even have this in here because we never have time for it. But there is a sample introduction script that you can take a look at. And then, so what's next? You should have the resource folder, but I will also send an email tomorrow with the link to that, just in case you didn't get it from the chat. And then I'll add your email to my list of litter leaders, and you'll get monthly emails with upcoming opportunities. Go ahead if you haven't and put my email, which is Dawn, DAWN, at keepdurhambeautiful.org in your contacts or like your trusted contacts so that those emails don't go to spam. And then you can reply to emails with events you're interested in. If there's an online registration, you're welcome to do that as well. Sometimes for the busier times of year, I might make a spreadsheet with all of the different events and a spot where you can put your name. That way everyone can see and it's in real time so that you can make sure that you're not signing up for something that someone else has signed up for. Oh, and feel free at any time to let me know if the email address I'm sending to is not the one that you prefer for this type of activity. Yes, I know you want to go outside, puppy. And then just to finish up, here's some other resources. So obviously there are lots of other organizations, both nonprofit and municipal, that are tackling litter. You can always call Durham One Call to report high amounts of litter or illegal dumping. Usually the neighborhood improvement services impact team are the ones that get called out to those. But it's good to call, partly, just to get it in the system that there's an issue there. And then the more people report it, the more likely it is that if it is a problem area, it will get addressed.
Also, one call will take if you see abandoned shopping carts. They like to get calls on those too. They'll come get them.
Yeah, and Daryl's team tries to return them as much as possible, unless they're like busted up. If you're doing a water-based cleanup, you can report unusual discharge or discolored water to the stormwater department, so 560 SWIM. You can report littering from a vehicle to the NCDOT SWAT a litter bug program. It's a pretty easy, just little online thing where you say when, where, what the vehicle. I don't think you have to say what the vehicle was. You just have to know the license plate. Usually what I will do is like try to snap a quick picture and then file the report later when it's safe. And then, so if you have other questions about like what's recyclable, there's a really great Waste Wizard tool through the City of Durham's solid waste website. And that is it. I think I managed to get this done in a reasonable amount of time. If you need to run, that's fine. Please take this survey. Just a really quick to let us know what you think. We're always trying to improve this training. If you have time and you have questions, feel free to stick around and I will try to answer them the best I can. Oh, hey, I didn't even see that was you, Arnetta.
Yeah, I have a Ellery Creek story from years ago. We were doing part water, part on land, and we had some volunteers in their kayaks on the water, and they went to retrieve what they thought was a rug. And inside the rug, so we had to get out of there, leave, call the police, and all that stuff. It actually had
No
a
way.
body in there. It had a body rolled up in a rug in the water.
Oh no.
Right
Was
about
this it? This
15
wasn't
years
at
ago.
Marsh, was it?
Yeah. Mhm.
Was that
Been
at Beaver
about
Marsh?
It's been about 10 or so years ago. Yeah.
Because I remember Ian Pond, who is a regular volunteer with Ellerby Creek Watershed, told me that he found, I think he found like a headless body at Beaver Marsh.
What?
We don't
That's
remember. All of
one.
a sudden, we're getting texts because I was there with a bunch of students to route them out a different way. And, once we got all gathered up, we found out what in the world. Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited, and I will do
If
the
anyone's
survey.
wondering, that's the kind of scenario where you would immediately call 911.
Yeah, yes.
And I see
Yeah.
Courtney's face, and I'm happy to say that this is one thing that I have not yet marked off of my
No.
bingo card yet.
The police do a really good job of scanning areas where they might even suspect things like that. So that was very rare, probably 1,000 years. Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to say thank you, Dawn, and sorry for having my camera off, everyone. My MacBook is in the repair shop right now, and my phone camera quality is just not great. So didn't want to, scare anyone with my image in the camera. But it was a pleasure meeting everyone. I hope you all have a great night, and thanks again, Dawn.
Thanks, Josiah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Mhm.
Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night.
Dawn,
Thanks. Thanks so much.
do we have